Okay, well, the box art to E.T. looks pretty good. It has a cool comic book feel. Check out the expression of worry on the faces of both E.T. and Elliot. I think Elliot is saying, as soon as this game hits the stands, we're toast. Is there any room for me in your spaceship? E.T.'s saying, not a chance, fleshbag, get a decent haircut. E.T.'s got a nasty paper cut on his index finger that looks like it's turning septic, and bits of telephone are floating around as if E.T. was a magician. Check out the ominous faceless entities behind them too. We guess they are supposed to represent the scientists that dress like explorers. And that giant faded dome in the sky must represent E.T.'s ride. It takes a special kind of badness to be buried in the middle of the desert under a ton of sand. If what cinema feeds us is correct, then this type of disposal is usually saved for things that people never want found, with all their traces of their existence wiped away permanently. If there was ever a game that deserved such a treatment, then E.T. would be it. This game not only killed the Atari 2600, it pretty much killed the entire video game industry in North America, no small feat. One tiny game undoing all that hard work. But it was a movie tie-in after all, perhaps the only thing on God's green earth that's capable of creating so much collateral damage. To be honest, the problem with E.T. is everything. There are plenty of iconic sections from the movie that Atari could have taken and developed into a video game. For example, the scene where Elliot is being chased by the police and escapes magically into the air with E.T. perched in his shopping basket. Surely that would have made a half-decent Gradius-style shooter. Even a game that had you controlling Drew Barrymore picking fancy dress items to put on your E.T. sprite would have proved a better core than what Atari would ultimately roll with. Do you think E.T. would have done nearly as well as it did at the box office if the film had been about an alien dropping into 50-foot potholes to reclaim pieces of telephone? Well, that's the strange made-up premise that Atari decided to build its game around. It's not only difficult to spot the wafer-thin film connection, he's looking for these pieces that he can phone home. While it's a bit risky to assume that a broken phone that's been festering in a pit would still work, let alone contact aliens, this is the homoerotic theme that the entire game is based around. E.T. is basically a game about falling into holes and getting back out of them, and somehow it manages to split the whole idea into two sections. The first finds you avoiding capture from guys dressed like Humphrey Bogart across screens littered with black holes, and the second involves you falling into these dark pixelated voids to investigate whether or not a piece of phone is inside. To get back out, E.T. has to perform this strange neck-extending move. It looks ridiculous, and takes almost the entire length of the movie to get him to finally reach ground level. Failure to prevent E.T. from doing his levitating neck trick at the exact point that he reaches the top of the pit will result in him infuriatingly dropping back to the ground, leaving you to repeat the whole demoralising process again. Sometimes, just to offer a bit of variety, instead of finding a piece of phone, you'll occasionally encounter a dead flower, which E.T. can bring back to life. Great. If you successfully collect the 3 phone pieces that are scattered around the game's 6 screens, your reward is seeing E.T.'s mummy and daddy drop into Earth in their spaceship, and taking away his allowance for reversing the charges and being such a bad little alien. It is a nice sugary dream, but sadly, we all know how real the ending played out. Atari received so many cartridges from extremely perplexed and miffed 2600 owners that it was reputed to have dumped the whole lot into a landfill site in Mexico. So, unless E.T. was a sand-dwelling Mexican, we guess he never did find home.